to Authentic Wealth and Wisdom with Ty and Tamia, where we discuss wealth and wisdom of being authentic, mind, body, and spirit.
In this episode, we are going to be discussing psychological patterns, physiology, and really the awareness of self, the intentions of our behaviors, what really drives us and motivates us, and some blockages that we could be experiencing, especially as it relates to your root chakra.
Yes.
Because all of that is kind of tied in together, right? Your sense of safety, security,
shelter.
Yeah, like the things that you just need to survive in this world. So I want to start this conversation with like safety and our sense of safety, and why is it sometimes that we end up in situations or in patterns of behavior that don't prioritize our safety or our security.
Or even when it comes to like, that's also where your values lie. So a lot of things that presents itself psychologically is where our values lie, and some of them we haven't properly addressed. So a lot of times you think of safety and you think of, what else did you say? Safety, security, shelter. Those are your basic needs to survive, right? But some of us do things like we have a drive and value in things that are outside of ourselves that keeps us repeating the same patterns, right? So even when it comes down to something we talked about earlier about the value, how I said earlier, how instead of buying property, we'll rather go do what? Buy a chain. But what value does that bring to what value does it bring to your existence for what's to come and after, right? You could have took that money and did what? Invest in something long term, right? Yeah. But your value is held outside of yourself. It's held in a material form. So your basic safety, shelter needs, it don't come from what you genuinely need and what you have observed from just being here. It just comes from things that was placed in front of you psychologically. Then you start to add value to things that don't matter, meaning like the material. Even with cars, you really just need a car to get to and from work. Yeah. But then it's some of us that want to get something that's a lot more, and we'll literally put ourselves in more debt just to have that item. And that item is really not of value,
Right. I want to touch back on what you said, where we place more value on the things outside of ourselves than within ourselves. And that's so important because literally the world around you is only a reflection that you have of yourself. But before we get too deep into that, let me preface this by saying I am not talking about the people that are in circumstances where you literally have no control over. Like there's things like redlining and like outside forces that put you in predicaments that maybe you cannot do as well for yourself as you would like to. I'm not talking about those people, but we are talking about the people again that put more value on the things outside of themselves, which causes them to choose things that aren't sustainable or have any longevity or don't have any they have no purpose, no value. They can't grow into maturity. Like again, we put effort, we put time, and we put energy because we think the cars are it, the new outfit is it, we think the name brands are it, but we can really be investing in things that create longevity, sustainability for our families, right? So like buying property, investing in businesses, maybe investing in stocks. There's different things that we could do, but our minds are so focused on what things look like to other people because again, it's a value thing. We want to look valuable to other people. And I think that kind of stems back to slavery and racism, right? Because if you ain't never had nothing, you want to be flashy because you want to feel important and you want to have a sense of value. So the only way to feel valuable is to have something that people have stated is valuable, whether it's a certain type of car, whether it's a certain shoe, whether it's maybe even having your hair a certain way because baby the middle part buzz down.
The middle part buzz down.
Y'all got the middle part buzz down. Because and that stuff costs money to keep up to look that way.
That's just great. Oh my God, I love her. That is a great point because today, and I'm so happy that we're talking about like hair. I was listening to something recently on, what is his name? Malcolm X, not Carnell X. He said that someone just created a beauty store where you can not lease a wig, but you can pay on a wig, right? And his was like, why are we even? You already have hair. Why are we even spending some amount of money on this? You know, like, and I'm not gonna lie, I felt him when he said that, because you, again, going back down to your basic needs, all you need is shelter. You need transportation. What else? You need your mind.
You need to be in
but
your
you
right mind.
The basic needs that you don't need is not, oh, I need a Bentley. Oh, I need a wig for every event. That's greed. And I feel a lot of times that we are in, even especially in the Black family, we in patterns where your mama made good money and she broke every single paycheck. What is going on? Let's look at the psychological patterns here. Let's look at what have your mom done? What was she doing? What was she taught? Where are you placing your bet? Why every time you get paid, you gotta go to the mall? Why every time you get paid, you skip over the water bill? You go, the water bill. You know, like, these are basic. Instead of going to the mall, let's take this money and I'm gonna put $50 to the side, because one day my baby gonna have to graduate. You know, so it's like, where do your values lie? You have your basic needs, and we're not speaking to the people that's forced into, like, you in some unfortunate situation, but we basically speaking to the people who choose to constantly build this pattern and this cycle, because at the end of the day, it still draws back into you and who you are and what you value. Because one thing I can say, my daddy said this all the time, wealth is of the heart. It's not outside of you. So where are you placing your wealth at? For as with your basic needs, for as your hair, your finances, your rent, your cars. Where are you living above your means? Why do you feel like you need to overextend yourself and buy this? Why do you want to look like you have money but don't actually have money? You get what I'm saying? So that's like a thing that I've seen play out constantly with just my family dynamic too, because sometimes I'm like, y'all still fighting over a block, but nobody owns it. We still dying, and nobody owns this block or this hood that y'all are competing or fighting over. But you drive a Benz, but you know, you really don't need that. That's not really a basic need. Again, all you need is shelter, transportation, those things to get around. You don't need all this big extraordinary of things.
And I think what we're saying too is that when you learn to prioritize the basic needs that you have, it makes more room for you to be expansive in other areas that would allow the increase that we all want, right? Because we all want to be successful. We all want to be abundantly financially. We all want to have abundance in love and everything else. But it's like, sometimes, like you said, you need to live within your means to be able to create the longevity that you're looking for, the success, abundance, and overflow that you're looking from. And it's not going to come from all the material things that are forced in front of us all the time. And you mentioned something, but it made me think about something else. I don't even remember exactly what you said, but it led me to the thought of, it was safety, right? So when we're thinking about safety and security in our lives as well as like a basic need, and sometimes we don't create that emotionally or mentally for ourselves either. And we end up in situations where we're in toxic relationships, or we're in, again, the same neighborhoods. Again, if you're in unfortunate circumstances where you are, forced into those situations, that's understandable. But sometimes we choose it and we don't understand that we're choosing it. We don't really understand as Black people the power that we have to really overcome a lot of the situations that we're in. But it's a pattern of behavior, right? If y'all have ever heard Iyanla Vanzant, she often says it's a pathology, right? It's a pathology in your lineage where we see that our families maybe have like grown up in the same areas, or we've seen a pattern in relationships or in their mental health. And I think the awareness is coming now to a lot of us to address it, but we're not really sure how to. We don't understand how to really break the pattern. We don't know how to break the cycle. But I think awareness is great. That's always the first step to really understanding how to overcome something, because you can't overcome it if you're not aware of it. And so I think that, like, when I think about safety and when I think about security, yes, it's having a roof over my head, even if it's not the best roof over my head, but I'm also thinking about the people around me. Am I creating the right relationships with the right people? Am I entertaining the right relationships and the right people? And I think like our generation is on the right path because we'll go no contact with parents.
Right.
Because if something's not healthy, like our generation is the ones to be like, I'm not doing this right now. But it should be that quickly too in platonic relationships with friends, right? And I'm not saying don't work it out. I'm not saying be conflict avoidant, okay? But I am saying if something is not serving your highest good or your highest wellness, if you don't feel seen, heard, and valued, if you don't feel safe, if you don't feel secure around these people that you are so-called calling your friends or so-called people that you in love with romantically, baby, that ain't it.
Even family too. Family too.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna piggyback off of what you said. A lot of times it does take you to recognize it and be the shift. I never said the shift was gonna be pretty. I never said that it was gonna look a certain way. But you have to be the it's kind of like you have to be the sacrifice, you know, to change the trajectory. Because just like she said, a lot of things is, what is it, psychological, right? So you've seen it so many times, you think it's normal. But if you come out that world, and have you ever had a second to say, okay, I'm here right now, do I feel safe? That's the first question you need to sit with yourself and ask. And I mean sit with yourself, not everybody else. Do I feel safe here? This shelter that I have, am I okay? Is this okay for me, my kids, my family? Is this along those? Am I in alignment with that? Am I happy here? Do I feel protected? All of those questions you need to get to asking yourself to be in order for you to make the next shift to break whatever pattern you have. And like I said, a lot of things are taught. It's more so if you see it enough, you're gonna absorb. You're literally gonna absorb it. So if your mom or your dad had this constant cycle of, you know, abandoned women or talking to these women, you may have that. You be like, dang, I don't even know. You probably don't even recognize it. But that's why I say you need to take your time to yourself and say, hey, is my safety needs met? Do I have the basic things that I need? Am I happy here? How do I feel when I'm in this place? So you can make the transition to be like, okay, I know what I need to do to not be here again, or I know I need what I need to do for my kid to be maybe even if sometimes it's not 10 steps ahead, sometimes it's just 2, but that sacrifice can lead your lineage a long way.
And you know what else I just thought about as you were saying that? And it's something I come across too as I do coaching sessions, is we can become addicted to unhealthy patterns and behavior. So what came to my mind was being addicted to struggle or being addicted to survival. And we see this a lot, not just in relationships, right? Because we're trying to fill voids. We have this need to belong, which is that's a basic human need, a source of belonging, right? But also in our careers as well, we'll put ourselves into survival mode and work crazy conditions just to sustain ourselves, when maybe there's other options that are easier on our bodies, easier on our minds, easier on our lives. But we are quite literally physiologically addicted. It's literally a chemical release in our bodies where we are addicted to the struggle. It releases the same endorphins. It still releases dopamine and serotonin in your body, even when you're having a negative experience, and your body gets addicted to that. And so again, we find ourselves addicted to struggle in our careers, survival in our careers, in our family, in our relationships. It's a mentality, but it's like, just like any other drug, you have to wean yourself off of it. But first is awareness, right? And first is admitting, like, this is a problem for me. I'm addicted to this lifestyle. And although I may not like it and I may complain about it, I had to admit to some extent I'm familiar with it.
And that's why that's why I'm comfortable here. That's why I feel like I need to be here. I need to do it. Let me go work hard. Let me go do this. But we need to go back down to our intentions. Okay? What are you working harder for? You know? Because I've heard people say, I'm just trying to get that check so I can buy this Bentley, I can buy this, you know, the desires in the wrong space. You know? Again, back to your basic needs. Basic needs. It don't have to be Louis. It don't have to be Gucci. Basic needs. And addressing, again, you said something about, you know, just like when you were addicted to something, think about when a drug addict is going through withdrawals.
It's not pretty.
It's not pretty.
It's painful.
It's painful. It hurts. They cry. They shiver.
Yeah.
And I feel like even though that's the physical process of, you know, somebody who's experiencing an addiction, like withdrawing from it, that's the same thing. Not physically, but you're still going to experience those same feelings when it comes time to release a negative pattern that you have been having with work, with people, with friends. It's going to be uncomfortable. You might cry. You might feel real low, you know, lost. Yeah. I need a vulnerable, super vulnerable.
You may even feel a little insecure.
Yes.
Because the things you once found security in no longer exist.
No, it's no longer there. So that means you have to create a whole new identity of what that looks like, you know?
Yeah.
And same thing like somebody that's going through the whole addiction thing. When they decide to leave the world, think about all their friends that they was hanging with during the time that they was drugging. You know, now they like, oh, I don't even do that no more. I can't be around you because you're gonna tempt me, and that's not part of my basic needs anymore. My basic safety, my basic shelter. I can't be around that. So that world is gonna look different, and it's gonna be uncomfortable because it's probably gonna require you to be alone for a while.
Yeah,
probably gonna require you to be like, I'm here, but I'm coming and going. I don't really know what's next.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I feel like once you make that shift, your world just expands more than what you ever could imagine. And I always say this, life is painfully beautiful.
Yes.
You know, like, if you stay stuck in one world, it's going to enable you to move forward.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
I was just going to say, I'm like, going.
No, for real. I think that you said something really important, something about like building or expanding. And I want to tie that back into the root chakra, because if you think about your root chakra, it's literally what it said. It's your roots. It's where it's your foundation. It's what you're grounded in. And these are the core principles and values that you're building your life. And if you can't build them to form a foundation for your basic needs of life, everything else that you build is going to be faulty and it's not going to be stable. Yeah, it's not going to be what it needs to be, again, to be sustainable and to have longevity, which is something I think that we all want in life. I don't think any of us are automatically thinking, I want to fight and struggle for every single thing that I have. For my children and my children's children. I don't think anybody's actually thinking that. Although, like we just said, we may be addicted to those patterns and those behaviors. At the end of the day, we would love for things to happen easily and effortlessly sometimes. But sometimes it requires, like you said, the discipline and the setting apart to create the foundation that is in alignment with your highest good. Think about that. What is your highest good and highest wellness? What are the things that support your highest good and highest wellness? And then building a foundation from that. And it requires you to come away from those things that you've been familiar with. It requires you to come away from the things that have not supported your highest wellness and highest good. The people, the places, the things that could be family, that could be romantic, it could be platonic, it could be a career choice. And it's going to be scary. Like you said, the word shift. When you make a shift, it's scary. Sometimes it's unpredictable. And another thing about human behavior is that we are creatures of pattern and habit. We love routines. We love the things to happen just the way the way that happen. Don't be switching up. I know that this is gonna happen this day and this, and if it's any type of surprise, it's because I planned it. And I planned the excitement in my life. So if we end up in situations in life where we don't know what's going to happen, yes, absolutely, that's going to be scary. But it's always, and when I say always, I quite literally mean always more beautiful on the other side.
Literally, always. And let's take that back to a job, right? How most of us be like, girl, I don't want to go from job to job. I'm good here. Then that day you lose your job, your whole world coming down. And then as soon as you lose that job, even if you gotta wait 3 months, 6 months, because during that shift period, sometimes it won't be no movement. Sometimes you're gonna have to be still.
It'll be quiet.
Sometimes, exactly. Sometimes you're gonna have to be still.
Hello,
but
God.
You hear me, God?
You still there? It's a little quiet out there. Okay, I'm gonna just wait here.
Look, it's been about 3 months.
Right.
You
Hello.
forgot about me? Damn. But even in that season of being still, you get a little anxious. You like, damn, if I would have did this, and then you just get all of these starts. But look, one day a job calls you paying way double the money that you was getting paid. So it's just like, if you knew why you was fired or why you was so frickled and messed up that you lost this job, but look what you walked into. Look what the sun has setting for you.
Okay.
Soon as you might have waited 6 months. In that season, it was just to prepare you for what you was walking into. So even when it comes down to I feel like even with the root chakra, it sits at the bottom because it's your basic foundation. A lot of shit gonna happen. Things gonna fall off, right? But you're gonna have to go back to what keeps you grounded. When something don't work out, or when your basic need is you lost your house, that's not met. You're gonna have to go back to that ground field that you built for yourself. You're gonna have to be like, okay, I've been here before. What patterns do I have to change up so I can be in a different predicament?
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
So it's like you must build from here. But if all of this, if what you have at your foundation is based off of fake illusion and values outside of yourself that don't matter, you're gonna keep having buildings that's coming crashing down.
Right. It can't sustain itself.
It can't.
You can build it only so high before the foundation crumbles.
Exactly.
And everything that you build is
exactly. Even if you have a flourishing season based off of this wiggly foundation, but in due time it's still gonna crash because you didn't plant this seed in this soil and keep watering. You put some organic, not no organic fertilizer. You put some unprocessed fertilizer over it. And then you just expecting like, oh, it's gonna grow. No, it's more than just that. You need to water. You need to talk. You need to identify. You need to be real. You need to really build from that. You can't sustain anything from a shaky foundation that you don't really know what value it has within it.
Exactly. And as you gave that analogy, I'm also thinking about like actual homes in different regions, like here in Texas, or I used to live in Florida. There are certain ways that they build the buildings to sustain hurricanes and things like that. So when things come, when the storms of life come, when the storms of nature hit, the foundations aren't just washed away. You know what I'm saying? Even when I live, well, not when I live, I'm from there, Michigan. But when I was at home, like the majority of the houses are built with basements because you have to be able to go down somewhere or something. You have to have somewhere to go. Like you said, you have to have somewhere to go back to. And so I'm thinking about the way that things are specifically built for the elements of of nature, but also you can build your life, build yourself for the elements of life that are inevitable for all of us. You know what I'm saying? Like, so think about those things. Like, again, what's going to be sustainable? If you create something, is it just going to be able to wash away with one little wind blowing? Is it going to come away with one little, what is it called, like a F1 tornado? But when the F5 come, all your shit is completely destroyed. Like, think about
what it's going to make, how it's going to make you feel.
Yeah, that's going to tear you up when your stuff is just complete. Or when, again, you built something, but you don't have anything to go back to. Again, those rooted morals, values, the foundation of which you've built your character and your integrity, so you can properly navigate life. Like, where are those things? Because you can always go back to those things. If they're solid, you can always rebuild. Literally. Always rebuild. There'll always be something there.
And you know what? That makes me think about why people have blueprints. You know? So what is your
blueprint?
What's your blueprint? Because your blueprint is actually your foundation. Your foundation of life, your sustainability, or whatever. It's some people that die off and create a blueprint for the next 2 or 3 years.
They do.
So root. What is your foundation? What are you building? Are you building from, what is it, top to bottom, bottom to top, side to side? Where is your blueprint? And what is included in the values in this blueprint that you're working with? And is this something that's going to sustain you for a month? 2 months? 6 months? A year? You really have to start asking yourself those types of questions, because just like the seasons change, life gonna change.
Life is gonna change.
It's gonna change.
I keep going back to nature, but I'm even thinking about like palm trees. Like when the hurricanes come, but 99% of the palm trees are not uprooted out of the ground because they have been built to withstand the winds, and they may lean, but baby, it's coming right back on up, because it knows what it's up against. It knows what it takes to sustain itself and to grow and to continue to be tall and flourish and nourished and everything else. And so again, like you're saying, you have to think about what is the blueprint. Like, we're at the roots, and we'll get some more blueprint later, but like, what are you going to continue to build that is sustainable from what you have created in your foundation?
Right. What have you, the stuff that you have created from the root on up?
Yeah.
Because even if you think about, y'all, I'm a former biology teacher, so let me just add that in there. Even when you're thinking about a tree, right? Every as above, so below. Them roots carry them trees.
They do.
Right?
They do.
They carry them trees, and them also the roots. That's also how they communicate. So again, back to your blueprint. What is in them roots, baby? When you do grow up tall, you have I think of it as a family tree. You growing up tall, like this is my branch, but I have a kid, which is an extension of me. Then that kid has other kids, which branches off. Then it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. But again, that blueprint is what's gonna sustain this tree. Them roots, that water, all of that, all them years of building and pouring is what is gonna sustain it, so it don't fall over. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
I just feel like when we talking about the root chakra, just think of it as you getting down to the root of you, the root of who you are and what you want in this lifetime to come. Because even though you don't have, even though everything is not already done, you're building what is to come.
Yes.
But it all goes back down to, what are your values? What are your roots? What did you start off? What did you write down? What was your intentions? What did you pour? What did you speak? What pattern did you undo so you can be able to sustain this? You know? Oh, that was, I mean, look, and as we are talking about this is all stuff that I'm absorbing for my own benefit, you know, because I'm like, dang, girl. Because there's so much stuff that happened. Like, I recently, when I was a teacher, I lost my job and I was crying, y'all. I came up in here, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. But in that period, I had to go back to what was my foundation to keep my mind leveled out. So I went back to meditating. I went back to reading. I went back to writing down what I wanted my life to look like during those stages of me being in a rebirth. Because it's not comfortable. It's not. But now I'm on 6 months later, I have a new job. Making way more money than what I was making before. You know? But again, during that time, I could have spiraled. And went here, went there. Everywhere. But I went back to that blueprint. Like, girl, even though you lost that's probably where that's not your end goal. What you wrote on this paper? What values did you have for yourself? Does that job align with those values?
And that's how you stay in divine alignment,
right? Does that job align with those values?
Exactly.
But it took me to be aware and to ask myself all the questions that I didn't want to ask, just for me to identify, like, okay, God, you do hear me.
Okay, you doing your big one.
You doing your big one.
Yeah, literally.
You're doing your big one. This right here is just a full circle.
It is. I got something to add later. But, okay, let's get into our segment. And this segment is called Yap Session. So we're going to tie this all together and have a yap session about how colonization and capitalism has influenced our vision of success, the world, relationships, and why we choose the things that we choose. So we kind of talked about this before, of like the material things that have been put in place, and we kind of touched momentarily on like redlining and things like that. But like, clearly, as Black people, there have been a lot of obstacles that have been put in our way to where it's just that much harder for us to get ahead. There are a lot of seen and unseen things that factor into that. Like, obviously, the thing that you can see is the color of our skin. We can never get away from that, and people can reject us just off of that. But there are structures that have been put in place, like I mentioned, redlining. This past year was the voting, right? So when we think about things like that, where maybe we could change different laws and different things to help us as a people. It has always been twice as difficult, not even twice, 10 times, 100 times as difficult for us to be able to even just participate in society in a way that helps us advance and excel. I think about like when we think about flashy things, like we talked about wanting chains and stuff like that, and I think of like the music industry and how the music industry is pretty much ran by older white men as like the executives of the company. And when you think about your records or people like owning their music, is owning their masters, and they don't have access to certain things. And literally society operating like that, to where they will only sign or push forward, and this is not just in music, but they will push forward the things that are very low level, very surface level, like the cars, like the women, like the name brand, like being flashy, looking a certain way. And a certain aesthetic, because they know as Black people they can play off of us, because we've always wanted to feel valuable in this space, in a world that people have always told us we don't have any value. There's no value in the way that you look, your hair, the way that you show up, but like literally copy everything about us and literally they mimic, they steal our value, they steal our strength, and market it as their own, and leave us with surface level, low hanging fruit, basically. And I think that plays a major factor, especially social media, the way that it's pushed out. And to be quite honest, let's take some accountability as a whole, as Black people, that we engage and we entertain the lowest parts of ourselves. So we see all of like the housewife shows, or I think it's called like Zeus Network or something like that. And it's like we're the main audience of those things, but it's like we say that we want to see higher, more valuable things, or a better spectrum of what it means to be Black, but yet we are the highest consumers of this type of content. We control the dollar pretty much in America. Whatever
it's the most money spent in the world, like in the world, like literally.
Whether it's a new shoe dropping, whether it's again something name brand, we are the top spenders. So it's like we have apparently the least amount, which what they tell us, but we spend the most. But imagine if we understood that we have the most and properly delegated where to invest and spend our money, and not just spend our money, but spend our time, spend our attention, spend our perspective, investing your time, your mind into things that elevate you and uplift you, and not keep you in the cycle of value based on a material item that's gonna be gone tomorrow. And the thing about material things is that the shit is not even real. Somebody literally says, it's a crystal ball in front of me. Somebody says this is $100. Why is it $100?
Because I said it was.
It's not because it's real fancy material, which I know that's a thing. You know, sometimes things they're harder to find, or maybe the process of making them may cause them to be a little bit more expensive. But at the end of the day, a lot of it is just made up.
Somebody placed value.
Somebody placed value. Even the dollar. Somebody placed the value on a dollar. It's a piece of paper.
Literally.
And somebody said, this means $1. And so we have to be more attentive. I'm gonna put this back. We have to be more attentive about the things that we are placing our own value, our monetary value into, because I think as a collective, as Black people, we have it, but we don't know where to put it. And so just be mindful, like when you're obtaining things. And I want to say this, it's not bad to obtain things. It's not bad. We all want something nice.
We all want something nice.
We all want to live in a nice home. We all want to have money and generational wealth, but what we're saying is what matters is the intention in which you're gaining these things. It matters the perspective that you're coming from. It matters the mindset that you have as you begin to gain all of these things, because it sounds cliche, but what's the man to gain the world and lose his soul? And we see this in society where people gain. We see the celebrities gain all the time, and they be the most miserable people on the planet. But we want their life.
She said, like, I got this big house and I don't like. I don't
have nobody to share it with. You don't have love in the home. You don't have joy. You don't have happiness. You don't have loyalty. That's a big one. So it's like, be mindful of the foundation. Again, what are your intentions on obtaining all of these material possessions, what does it really mean to be safe? What does it mean to be secure? What does it mean to be grounded? What does it mean to have good morals and values in your life and in the connections that you're creating? What are the things that you can contribute to your society, especially as a Black person? We know that there are so many things up against us, but what are the small everyday things that we can do to really create this safety and security for ourselves, and not just rely on what somebody else said is valuable to us?
And you know, like while she's talking, I'm literally thinking, I have a question that I want to end with, and it's like, where do you place your value?
Yeah.
Where does your value lie? Does it lie outside of you? Because a lot of what you're saying is physically showing that our value is not in ourselves. It's in the things that we wear. It's in the things that we buy. It's in the things. It's in the. And you know what? Everything's psychological, because you see all these rappers, Gucci, this, that, so it makes us want it. Yeah. But again, the value is still not in the right place. Yeah. It's still outside of you.
Exactly.
So once I closing out, I want to ask you, the listener, the people that's watching, where does your value really lie?
Yeah.
What is so worthy? If you can get it all right now, what is so worthy and a value to you? And I'm talking about outside of the materialism.
Going within. To add on to that, something to ponder is, imagine how powerful you would be if you knew how valuable you are
on the inside.
Yeah.
Because you just said we spend the most money.
We spend the most money.
We spend the most money. But imagine if you spent the most money in here.
Oh. Imagine if you invested in therapy.
Imagine
if you got some spiritual coaching. Imagine if you invested in yoga, not with the intentions necessarily to get your body right, but to align your chakras and get yourself balanced.
Yes. Oh my God.
Thank you for watching Authentic Wealth and Wisdom with Ty and Tamia. We will catch y'all on the next episode.